Welcome to the session on the development of Kazakhstani content in subsoil use. The session is organized in partnership with the Kazakhstan Chamber of Mines, the new and prominent voice of the junior mining and international investment community in Kazakhstan. In this session, we'll explore the experiences and strategies of companies operating in the mining sector, which is playing a crucial role in the economic development and security of Kazakhstan. Over the next 5 years, Kazakhstan aims to maintain growth rates at 6 to 7%. To achieve this, the government is introducing new initiatives which are likely to have a great impact on existing and future mining projects and operations in the country. Please scan the QR code and take a few minutes to complete the survey during the session. Your feedback is invaluable. Together, we can drive progress and success for the industry. Your participation is completely voluntary, and your responses will be kept confidential.
Good for everyone, the heads will be clear, and we've got some very interesting panelists to listen to in this first session. Loosely around the topic of development of Kazakhstani content in subsoil use, and some comments on experience and strategies. As we go through the session, please make your thoughts known on the survey for this session, which you can find from the QR code, which I think should be displayed in a moment. And then at the end of the session, we will hopefully have a bit of time just to go through the results of the survey and see what that means, and we can even have a few questions from the floor. Also, at the end of each panelist's presentation, we'll have a period, few minutes for Q&A from the floor if anyone's got any questions pertinent to the presentation. Okay, well, we will be starting now with a presentation from Ms. Taskyn Koshman, who is the Director General of the Kazakhstan Chamber of Mines. Thank you, Taskyn.
Good morning, esteemed ladies and gentlemen. Here I'm representing the Kazakhstan Chamber of Mines, and I would like to welcome you to this session.
Dear speakers and Kazakhstan Chamber of Mines members and partners, we are happy to welcome you to our special session. And taking this opportunity, I would like to thank MINEX Kazakhstan Forum organizers for this opportunity. My name is, as Tony said, Taskyn Koshman. I'm the General Director of Kazakhstan Chamber of Mines. And in my brief presentation, I would like to share some information on ongoing activities and initiatives of the Kazakhstan Chamber of Mines. So, можно слайд следующий? Yes, so Kazakhstan Chamber of Mines was established in March 2023 to represent the interest of explorers, developers, and producers of minerals in Kazakhstan. The founding members, both local and international companies listed on London and Toronto Stock Exchange, and we are membership-based organization, non-for-profit, very dynamic, with industry and associate membership levels. So we started our operations in September 2023 with 40 companies joined, 25 industry and 15 associates. So you can see on this slide the logo of companies joined. And most recent, just last week, joined 2 companies, first Quantum Exploration Kazakhstan and Terra Exploration, and more to come. So about the Chamber. Chamber supports responsible mining, advocates for favorable investment, and benefiting current and potential members. Можно следующий, next slide. Through various initiatives and activities. So what we do, we engaging in legislative efforts, participating in diverse working groups, providing input to the government bodies, We provide business networking by organizing events, local events, international events. We participate in forums and exhibitions such this one, and planning to organize business and trade missions to abroad, to Central Asian countries, CIS countries, and probably in the future Canada, UK, Australia. And we plan to develop investors guide, market reports, and industry podcast. So, if you would like to know more about our future initiatives and activities, you can all the time apply to me. So I'll be happy to share with the events calendar, with the future plans. Yeah, we'll be engaging in many other activities related to the industry. So also to share that Kazakhstan Chamber of Mines is a member of KazRC, and we're in the process of getting accreditation at the National Chamber of Entrepreneurs at Taskyn. We're also a member of the Geology Committee Working Group of the Ministry of Industry and Construction, and in the process of becoming a member of the Kazakhstan Foreign Investors Council Association and Foreign Investors Council Working Groups. Overall, Chamber has made significant progress since September 2023. So very young, as I said, very dynamic, moving chamber. And we will continue focusing on membership growth and supporting our members' interests. And taking this opportunity, I see many of our members. I would like to thank you for your continued support and trust. And my presentation, I mean, the goal, aim of this presentation was to invite those who have not yet become a member of Chamber to consider about that, and it's very simple process. What you need is just to have a strong commitment to support our mission and take a few steps. Next slide, please. So how to become a member? What you have to do, you just need to visit our website and go to a membership application form on the upper right corner, to click it, fill the questionnaire, submit your application form, and then advisory board of the Chamber will consider it and provide with the membership agreement. You can also find a lot of useful and most recent updated information on our website. And if you are looking for more promotional materials, events calendar, you can all the time approach me. I'm here, and you can also email me. And last thing to say, today we have some small announcement at the evening. At Galadina, we have a special announcement scheduled for Galadina for this evening, so please make sure that you are not missing it. And we will have Galadina, I think 7 p.m. So yes, we are looking forward for meeting you there, and yeah, we'll be sharing our announcement. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much. Please do participate in the survey. I think it'll be very interesting. Some of the questions are quite significant, and it'll be very good to test the temperature of the room on these matters. Right, I'd like to welcome to the podium Mr. Michael Douglas from Xcalibur, of which he is the CEO. Welcome, Michael.
Excellent, thank you very much. It's all on, yeah. I have to do just a quick amendment to the introduction there. I'm not the CEO, okay? I'm a managing director for the Kazakhstan business unit. I think Andres Blanco, who's based in Madrid, where our head office is, he would be laughing at that, but there we are. So just by way of introduction, Xcalibur Smart Mapping We have a main head office in Madrid, and we're spreading globally with a number of different technologies, all to assist in finding these underground resources, this natural capital that we're all looking for. And it's become so prominent to me over the presentations that were done yesterday that Kazakhstan is just really in such an excellent position. You have your Memorandum of Understanding with Europe. We have an agreement at Xcalibur Smart Mapping with NGS, within Kazakhstan to start acquiring data for you. And this to me seems a perfect fit because everybody's telling me that you've got great resources here, the mining is going ahead, but we are not finding new deposits. And as the Minister said to me, Michael, within the next year, we need a world-class deposit. So I suppose the buck starts with us. We'd better start flying and finding some targets for you guys to explore. So slide number 1, please. Do I do the slides? Oh, sorry. I'll do my one slide. Excellent. Okay, so you can see where we've been in the globe. It's not particularly representative. We've touched all 6 continents around the globe. We've done 50 million plus line kilometres of data acquisition. It's just a mind-boggling amount of data acquisition. We've got geophysical systems, traditionally 2 or 3 to an aircraft, magnetics, radiometrics, such like EM, electromagnetics, and we have well over 40 specialised aircraft. Which gives us 12 more aircraft than Air Astana has actually got. So we're not doing too bad as an aircraft fleet. Of course, here's all our offices, and a man at the back of the room will agree with me that quite clearly the most important office is our office, the Astana office. The company was formed in 2023, and we've opened offices which are very, very close to the Baytarek Tower. So if any of you are in the area, please feel free to come up and see us. We don't yet have a coffee machine, but I'm pretty sure we'll get one soon. The other offices around that you see are Toronto is one of the major offices, Perth is a major office, and Pretoria are the major offices. And we are all feeding into these offices to gain the expertise and knowledge that we need in our local departments. The service offering, well, we'd actually take a step more than data acquisition. We design and develop and tailor the survey specification to your requirements. All right? So the line spacing that we acquire the data at, the height that we acquire the data at, the survey orientation, we do all of this for you just to make absolutely sure the data we acquire is exactly the data you need to meet your objectives and take your exploration workflow forward. Data processing will be done in Astana at our offices, so it's an in-house solution there. We have a small team just now of 6 individuals, but by the end of 2025, we'll have around 15 to 20 people across the board in our Astana offices. Data interpretation, very, very similarly, will be taken care of in-house. The data interpretation, well, if you're just looking for a phase 1 interpretation just to get things started in your workflow, then we can do that very quickly and easily. But we work with you to develop the data interpretation. So when we move into integration and modelling, then we'll be working with your own teams, your own local knowledge, to prepare the very best data interpretation that we can. And of course, what do we do with that? Well, the data management aspect is something else that we have at Xcalibur. We have our own software. I think coming soon on our website, there will be a demonstration of that software. So please feel free to have a look at xcaliburmp.com, and you'll be able to see the data management solution there. Now, the global trends, you know, this is it's a huge part of where we are right now, and this shift to security is a major element. I attended a number of meetings in Brussels with the EU, and it really is the focus now. You know, the cheap materials are great. Being able to get our hands on commodities cheaply and quickly and easily is fantastic, but what happens when it runs out? So we're really looking for 10, 20, 30-year relationships these days. So, and I think Kazakhstan, you have the resources, you've certainly got the land mass, and you're very much right there in the top 3 of providers globally. The race for natural resources is a good one, and it's a difficult one for me because we fly airborne geophysical surveys, and we need to make some money, so we need to fly surveys. And we have a huge amount of interest. I can just tell you where the interest is. Africa is incredibly competitive. Zambia and Namibia have phenomenal data all ready for people to download and access and create their licenses and such like. So the race is on. The good news is that Xcalibur Smart Mapping has made some great inroads in Kazakhstan, and we're talking to the ministry about a particular project, which I'll cover later on in the slide, but it's certainly going to take you a leap forward in being able to assess and de-risk some of the acreage that's out there. Well, of course, the energy transition is here, and as I discussed with Anthony before we started, there's this massive gulf, and in a presentation we saw yesterday from Ana Fonseca, the area that we're looking to do our first regional mapping exercise is bang on the global map of excitement. So all of the natural resources we're looking for, the copper, nickel, are precisely where we're going to do our very first pilot project in Kazakhstan. The biodiversity angle, well, Xcalibur Smart Mapping is always traditionally known as a subsurface solution. So anything under the ground, we'll map it for you. And that includes oil and gas and geothermal, hydrogen, such like. But we also do above surface. So we have geospatial solutions as well. So we'll look at the use of farmland for you. You know, the recent flooding that we've are experiencing in Kazakhstan, well, hopefully with the geospatial solutions in the future, we'll be able to map out these floodplains. We'll be able to work out what's going to happen in the future. So the biodiversity angle really dovetails in very well to the subsurface, and it's really just harnessing the natural capital in total, holistically, of your country here in Kazakhstan. Well, this is what it's all about. You know, for private clients, much of who are in the room, that's one element. But for Kazakhstan itself, we're seeking to attract investors globally. And there's a number of very, very big names are now registering companies in Kazakhstan, opening offices in Kazakhstan. And the Geological Survey of Australia is a perfect example. In fact, there's a wonderful article, white paper written by Deloitte, which if you come and see us at the booth 31 at the front, we'll give you a copy of that. And it basically just runs through cradle to grave, how to create pre-competitive data and make money out of it very quickly. And this is exactly what we're trying to do for the economy in Kazakhstan. We're trying to attract investors in, which obviously gives the economy a massive boost. So more about that in just a second. We have some case studies here. Australia is the perfect case study. As I say, we have this Deloitte article that you can take away. It's downloadable on your website. And if any of you have an email from me, there's a little link at the bottom as well. Essentially, when you read it, the executive summary at the front is very, very simple. Invest $1, get a return of $1,500, which it sounds a little bit too much, but to be honest, if you invest $1 and you get a return of $100, that's still a pretty good return. Angola was a fantastic case study for us, but I think graphically, the PNG case study that you see at the bottom is pretty much atypical of what we're trying to achieve in Kazakhstan. So we have an acreage there with a few licenses scattered around. We did comprehensive data across the entire acreage, and then you can see the license uptake. It's almost 100%. So there are, in the months and years to come, with the help of NGS, there's going to be a portal. The portal is going to have our data on it, and you can go and access this portal and assess the data for yourselves. Asian Hub, yep. It's not just a little office which is being fed by the main office in Madrid. This is our own business unit. We own our own assets, so the aircraft that will be used here will be owned by this asset, that's not us, will be owned by the Kazakhstan business unit. The technologies that we're using, magnetics, radiometrics, electromagnetics, are all owned and operated by our business unit here in Astana. Most importantly, the human capital that's going to look at the data, work the data, deliver the interpretations for you, are all local people here within the city of Astana. The Central Asian Hub is going to cover all of the stands, if you like. However, the main focus for us right now is going to be Kazakhstan. There are so many opportunities here right now that it's certainly, for the next 18 months, I can't imagine us doing anything else. Okay, well, at the beginning of the presentation, I did kind of try and draw a reference with Air Astana, but you can quite clearly see that our passenger capacity is a little bit less than Air Astana, and the in-flight entertainment is wanting. But these are typical of the type of aircraft that we use on survey. The little yellow one in the top left-hand corner, that's an air tractor. It's a single-seater aircraft. It's got massive endurance, so this little aircraft, despite its diminutive size, that aircraft can fly for 8 hours. It can acquire 1,500 line kilometers of data in a day. So typically what that aircraft would be equipped with would be magnetics, it would be equipped with a scalar gravity solution, and it'll be equipped with radiometric packs as well. All right. Ordinarily, it will fly around 60 to 80 meters from the ground, which is incredibly low. If you're thinking about coming to land in a jet at Astana Airport, it's pretty much the last 3 seconds before you touch the tarmac is the height that we fly around in these aircraft. To the right-hand side, I mean, pretty obviously that's a helicopter. And the benefits of the helicopter for us is it's a much slower moving vehicle, platform. It's much slower moving, and the height that it can fly at is much lower too. So you do have some challenging terrain here in Kazakhstan, and for that particular reason, the helicopter would be the platform of choice. It's much safer when we have mountainous terrain, and we can travel much slower and get much better quality data. The system that's attached to that obviously is EM. In the bottom left-hand corner, that's a unique solution to Xcalibur. It's a fixed-wing aircraft, but it's fixed-wing with electromagnetics. It also carries radiometrics equipment, and it can carry gravity solutions as well. Okay. Incredibly efficient. So what we're doing here is we're just building up a picture of all the technologies that we have, and the final one there in the right-hand side is the standard Cessna. And with the standard Cessna, we can do all sorts of different technologies. So Falcon, which is our gravity gradiometry solution, extremely high-resolution gravity. If you're seeking to image anomalies of 250 meters, 300 meters, this is the technology for you. So essentially, out of all of the technologies we've discussed, magnetics, mag gradients, electromagnetics, Falcon gravity gradiometry, we have the different platforms, and it's really up to the survey objectives, what you're really looking to achieve out of this. So if you need the ultimate in gravity gradiometry resolution, then we might choose the helicopter, pop the instrument on there, we'll fly the survey incredibly slowly at 45 knots, and we'll fly it incredibly low. But it's really about communicating with yourselves, finding out what your objectives are, what are your targets, how deep are your targets, what do you need to see, and then we tailor a bespoke solution to that particular survey. Okay. Excellent, and no presentation would be complete without core values for the company, and obviously I don't want to go through them all, but integrity, innovation, respect, collaboration is a big one for us because here in Kazakhstan we are a new business unit. We are seeking to recruit people in the next 6, 12, 18 months, and we are seeking your help as well as we start to navigate the business market. Of course, safety is massive, and thankfully we have our Chief Safety Officer sitting down there behind the camera, and we adhere to all of the various protocols. So IAGSA is massive for us. We have ISO accreditation, which is, I believe, unique in the industry for an airborne geophysics company. And of course, the excellence comes without mention. So that is the end of our presentation this morning. Is it
Thank you, Michael. Very Very interesting presentation. I think it's very significant that we have a global service company very focused on Kazakhstan. I think it's a very significant bellwether for the fact that this country is now becoming very obvious in the world as a destination for minerals exploration. I think that's very encouraging. Thank you, Michael. We will have time for a couple of questions from the floor, but firstly, if I may ask you a question, Michael. You mentioned in your presentation that Namibia and Zambia have very significant databases. Those databases, were they produced, sponsored, paid for by their governments or external sponsors or private people? Oh, okay. Thank you.
Is that us? Yeah, Zambia right now are undertaking what we call country mapping exercise, and it does what it says in the tin. It's a mapping of the country. And with these, we do the technologies of magnetics and a scalar gravity solution and a radiometric solution. And what happens there is it's wide coverage, and we start to grade targets. And it's really used as promotional materials by the governments, by the country, to incentivize people to come. And it gives people a much greater comfort level. So no longer are you bidding a block where it's kind of like, whoa, I have no idea what's happening here. Yeah. And it gains a much greater commitment from investors. They feel a lot more comfortable in entering into a 5-year agreement. They are encouraged to spend a little bit more. And Kazakhstan has this I think it's a unique situation where the bidding rounds operate on an auction platform. So really from that point of view, it's an excellent opportunity to get as much information as you can about what you're bidding on, and the data is going to be available for you. It's in the past, it's kind of like buying something from eBay without any pictures or description. But going forward, you now will have some information on which to make your assessments. So that's really where, and Namibia has a fantastic, it's been over the past 8-10 years, and they have an exceptional database. And if you're really looking for examples, Australia has a phenomenal data set. The size of the country, the coverage is just outstanding. Again, I refer back to this Deloitte white paper, which I would encourage anybody to read. It really is quite interesting. And then you look to countries like Finland. You know, and Finland has the most exceptional data library out there. And I think I'd possibly say it's even better than Australia, but it's a much smaller country, but it's so comprehensive. And that's really what we're trying to start here in Kazakhstan, this library of data to give you guys, the investors and the operators, that knowledge that you need to take the next step.
Yeah, I think it's a crucial issue, isn't it, for this country to maintain its competitiveness as an attraction for international investment. So I think we've got to push hard for this sort of thing to happen here to encourage more to what is a very prospective country. Thank you, Michael. Any questions from the floor to Michael? No? Okay, it must be a very complete presentation. Thank you. Okay, our next presenter is Mr. Nikolai Kirillov from SRK Consulting, Almaty office. Thank you, Nikolai.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the Chamber to this opportunity to speak today. SRK has been a member of the Chamber since the very early days. We share Chamber's values and look forward to close cooperation in promoting sustainable and resilient mining industry in Kazakhstan. I would like to start by explaining, we're in topic 2 of the today's session. It's devoted to critical minerals and transition to clean energy. And my presentation will be devoted to the following topic. So basically a bit of theory. We all speak about critical minerals and energy transition, but I would like to give some background why are these topics so hot. So I'll be explaining what are the current drivers for energy transition, what are the critical raw materials applications worldwide, why they are so important for many industries. Then I will be speaking about Kazakhstan, the status and the existing plans for the development of critical minerals. And if time permits, we'll reuse some slides from my yesterday's presentation regarding the international cooperation of Kazakhstan, which is currently ongoing. So to start with, energy transition is basically a process of moving away from the fossil fuels and change the fossil fuels to renewable energy sources such as wind, such as uranium, solar, and other potential options. The transition requires a great deal of what's so-called critical minerals, and we've been speaking extensively about them for the whole last day. And these minerals are essential for very many applications. I'll be speaking about this in more detail. I'm going to be showing case of two reports, two studies, one of them from UK and the other from European Union, where these countries basically rank and value their own domestic supply. They define what are the applications of those critical minerals in their technologies and what are the risks for the countries in terms of provisioning the sufficient amount of these materials. Again, supply chain challenges, very important. Some countries do use it, the restriction on export of minerals and export of technologies for geopolitical reasons, as geopolitical weapons sometimes, and supply chains get disturbed, and it is a common practice now worldwide, so that those countries which do need steady supply do develop their multi-vectoral supplies to secure adequate amounts of the critical minerals which they need. And of course, the other reason is that amount of critical minerals required it's like multifold from the current availability. So again, as many presenters were noting, that there's going to be a disbalance between the supply and demand, and this has to be covered in order for supply chains to be resilient. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I skipped this part of the slide. Sorry, clicker. The goals of energy transition. So it's basically well, everything which is related to critical minerals is mostly related to reduction of greenhouse emissions and mitigate the climate change, which affects basically all countries in the world. And the key for applications for those is renewable energy, electrification of transport, of various vehicles, facilities, efficiency of energy use. So it's not only making it electric, but also using energy efficiency. For example, energy efficient buildings are trend currently, and there is a number of different certifications for energy efficient buildings. And of course, energy storage, because it's not even supply of renewable energy. For example, there might be wind, there might be no. Same with sun. So that energy storage, for example, the storages which are being implemented by Tesla, unique high capacity storages, demand also a lot of critical materials. How does this affect mining specifically, energy transition and mining? So to reduce pressure on supply of the critical minerals, currently speaking about the primary materials which are mined, not recycled, companies must focus on building a number of mines, expanding current existing mines, because the demand is so high that it's basically both good opportunity and a risk if it's not implemented for the energy transition globally. And one of the important topics in this area is targeting already mined material, the waste material, existing materials, which may be a great source of critical minerals. Or in the situations where previously mined ore was like classified as off balance. Currently, with new commodity prices and commodity price trends, it might be worth to ascertain this level of reuse of the materials, reprocessing, which will also impact and improve the mine closures. So next point is the production of these materials has to be sustainable. The majority of the purchasers or off-takers of the raw material products are setting up fairly high standards for environmental, social, and governance performance of the companies. For example, if we compare the requirements of the EU, of the UK, or the Minerals Association, it's often not enough to comply with local legislation, whether it's Kazakhstani or other countries in Central Asia. It requires a great deal of knowledge and initiative to comply with high standards, which are set based on the global sustainability approaches. And these, in turn, requires very unique technologies, innovations, and importantly, recycling of the materials. So basically, the current trend is not only to produce the primary minerals, but reuse to a great deal the existing sources of waste, for example, or recycling the existing already manufactured products which contain critical raw materials. So this is another step for cycle economy. Energy transition also affects mining companies in terms of that if it's not happening as required, there's going to be a number of climate hazards which will be impacting various aspects of activities of mines. It's from basic climate change risks to mining operations which impact water supply, water stress for the operations. As we can see, there can be floods which can disrupt mining activities, and mining companies must be prepared to all those changes if the joint global efforts are not sufficient to mitigate them overall. So how do governments globally act on energy transition? It's basically four main areas. One of them is decarbonization, so basically global policy to decrease the emissions and ideally get to the net zero. Clean energy, which is assisting in this, so switching from fossil fuels, electrification of transport, and low carbon being leaks infrastructure. And to suffice the demand of the critical minerals required for fulfilling these tasks, we need more exploration, we need to facilitate project development, do strategic partnerships, I'm going to tell about it a bit later, and again turn to the circular economy so that the mining supply is not only the primary but the waste recycled. How challenging is this for mining industry? In fact, the amount of materials required is unprecedented. It's like multiple-fold increase demand by 2050. And all the new mines are ideally to be net zero, designed as net zero, or at least planned to align with Paris agreements, which are committed to by very many global mining companies. Key drivers worldwide that drive the change. So it's national carbon budgets. As you know, in Kazakhstan, currently there is a certain limit for the key emitters of greenhouse gases, and these limits are expected to stringent over time, and considering that current performance of Kazakhstan in terms of reduction of greenhouse gas emissions is not very positive, there might be changes in policies or regulations regarding this aspect. How will it impact the mine in terms of operational project development? So it might be a more complicated permitting process. Like you would have to agree the amount of greenhouse gas emissions with the regulator, and it might be the situation when it's not only done for the major emitters, but to all others, because it's the targets which Kazakhstan has, they're global, and they basically apply to the whole country, and there might be a need for closer regulation when basically each entity is obliged to do something about the reduction of the emissions. And as an example, I'm going to give existing Australian safeguard mechanism. I'll show it a bit later. So how it works in Australia, and why I'm speaking about Australia is that for the subsoil code, Kazakhstan used example of Western Australia. So maybe it will have to be using this Australian safeguard mechanism in the future. So how it works is a company is set a certain amount of permitted greenhouse gas emissions, and this amount cannot be increased. It will be only becoming stringent, and by the next decades, it will be requiring basically avoidance of fossil fuel use, which is this transfer is not very easy, and it has to be done well in advance. I'm going to illustrate this one with a chart a bit later. So the second one, very important, and it impacts companies globally, is carbon pricing. And it can have significant implications on life of mine for a particular deposit. Carbon pricing is set as taxes. They can be taken locally. They can be, the product, the commodity which is produced can be taxed internationally, for example, when there is an export to a different country which has regulations related to that. And one of the best examples of which I'm going to speak a bit later is carbon border adjusted mechanisms, which is it's currently in operation in Europe, but it's currently like a dummy operation. The carbon is calculated. The payment for the carbon is calculated, but it's not paid yet. But next year, the CBAM will work on the next stage, phase 3, and it's going to become operational, and it's going to increase its impact on the mines globally who do export commodities to European Union. The next driver for the big change is greening of the finance globally. It is driven by many governments, driven by many strategies of different banks. It's disclosure standards. For example, IFRS now requires mandatory disclosures. And unlike in many situations before, when you could report something and it's gonna be audited somehow, currently the trend is that auditing of the carbon emissions is becoming a very serious task, and greenwashing is totally not accepted here. So you can be legally bound for the reporting that you do, because it's going to be a violation of the law. And the last column is product carbon footprint transparency. So basically, whenever you do some export or selling your goods or commodities produced, you are to calculate the specific emissions for this product. I'm going to illustrate it later based on EU requirements for carbon footprint for lithium, which is which is purchased by EU. And potentially there's going to be a limit for production. So for example, a lithium can be produced, but if it's produced with a carbon footprint which is over a certain legal limit, it's not going to be something which EU companies would purchase. So where is Kazakhstan in this area of energy transition? Government of Kazakhstan set targets of 10 unconditional or 25 conditional greenhouse emission reductions to 1990 baseline. But as you see from the chart, the total emissions keep rising regardless of the commitments which were done by government. So it's a worrying situation, and if a regulator would like to meet the reduction targets, it will have to implement very stringent measures. So it will require to implement very stringent measures on the reduction, and it also may be risky for companies if it's going to be bound strictly into legislation. But at the same time, Kazakhstan has significant amount of potential for renewable energy. As you see on the slides, it's many terawatts of power which can be used by installing, operating the renewable energy sources. So, and the key challenge I would like to emphasize is that it is necessary to overcome the low-cost coal power and add flexibility to the energy system because energy prices may rise and this future maintenance of those facilities will be quite expensive. So now I'm going to switch to the I have limited time. I'm going to switch to the critical raw materials. This is a great figure from the EU study on the need for critical materials, ranked by technologies where they're used for batteries, fuel cells, wind turbines, tractor motions, and many others. So as you see, there's a distinct use pattern for those critical raw materials and very high demand. Many of them are in a risky area. So the more red it is, the higher risk is for disruption in supply chain or lack of domestic production. This is a similar study done last year by UK. It basically ranks the minerals against the industries where they're going to be used, and provides not only the criticality for the state, but also the environmental risk of this material not being supplied. As we see, currently export from Kazakhstan in terms of raw materials is very low, besides its big potential. And there's got to be more work done to be able to increase the output of critical raw materials. This is a slide based on the strategic plan of Kazakhstan developed very late last year on development of rare earth and rare earth metals. This slide shows which deposits are considered most profitable and perspective in terms of mining the critical raw materials. And this plan is based on This plan is based to address key issues which are present in domestic rare minerals, and like starting from low level of exploration right now, and to absence of the proper legal frameworks to stimulate the industry of rare materials mining. The plan wants to create favorable conditions for investors. So basically, the whole idea of this plan, it's for the next 5 years until 2028, is to boom the industry of rare metals or critical minerals development in Kazakhstan. And okay, one more slide. And I just a couple of last slides. Many of the challenges set out by the Kazakhstan's plan on critical materials and the ways the plan wants to address those issues can be mitigated by international cooperation in areas of critical raw materials. And as it was my presentation yesterday, that there is a number of those starting to emerge. Kazakhstan with European Union, UK, US, and many other forms of partnership. So I hope that this could be a point of discussions, how we can really use those international cooperations measures to really boom the industry in Kazakhstan and realize the great potential it has. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nikolai, for that very in-depth analysis of the challenges that face us as a planet, really, to meet these decarbonization goals. It's very challenging, as Nikolai pointed out, and other presenters in this forum. I was struck the other day when I was watching the BBC News, and there was one of these Just Stop Oil protests going on in London, where activists glue themselves to the road and throw paint over works of art to draw attention to their cause. And in all these events, the activists are wearing these T-shirts saying, "Just stop oil." That's the message they want to get across. And I couldn't help thinking they were only getting half the message. I would like to join them out there, but wearing a T-shirt saying, "Just start mining." Because mining is the biggest challenge to achieving these objectives, not stopping the hydrocarbons, but providing the raw materials to electrify the planet. And I don't think that is something that is easily realized by people at the moment, so we have to make that more obvious, I think. We have time for 1 or 2 questions from the floor, if there are any. No? Okay, we'll move straight on then to the next presenter, Mr. Tim Barry, CEO of Aras Minerals. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you very much.
Microphone on at the bottom.
Thank you very much. So I'm wearing a different hat today from normally talking my own book about a company I run called Aras Minerals. I'm actually going to talk about the Kazakhstan Chamber of Mines, and I guess why this recent formation of the Chamber of Mines was needed or is needed for Kazakhstan. And I guess it's the mark of a growing, healthy mining industry. So before I jump into the Chamber of Mines and what it's about, just going to give a kind of worldwide context here. So this is a chart of the copper price over the last 2 months. And if you were lucky enough to buy stock in February, you hopefully would have seen a nice lift in the price of copper and in the stocks that followed. And the question is, why is the price of copper actually going up? So we all know this story. This is the coming copper crunch. This is the copper production from 2015 to 2023. There was a 3.3 million tonne consumption of copper increase over this period. Moving forward from 2024 to 2030, we're looking at more than double the consumption of copper. And I guess the big question is where is this copper coming from? So this is what's going to be the new production that comes online to replace either mines that are being mined out, or I guess new production that's needed to come online. So if we just zoom into this is what it looks like in terms of actual physical new mines being built. So a big mine is 200,000 tonnes of copper a year. In 2024, we need 2 new mines, big mines of copper to come online. 2025, 3, 26, 2, 3, 2, and 2. This is just to meet the forecasted, I guess, explosion or use of copper, the coming copper crunch. So the big question is, where are these mines actually going to come from? Well, the answer is it's not from exploration. So if you look at the period from 1990 to 2008, 203 major copper discoveries were made. That's an average of 11 major copper discoveries a year being made during that period. And then we all know what happened in 2008, the great financial crisis. Money became tight, and suddenly mining was out of favour. So from 2009 to 2016, only 21 major copper discoveries were made. That dropped to an average of 1.9 discoveries per year being made. Now you think that's bad. Wait until you see this. So from 2017 to 2021, 1 major copper discovery was made over that entire period. And the simple fact is, we know we need copper, we need that consumption to do all the energy transition stuff. But there simply has been no exploration or no successful exploration in finding major copper discoveries literally now for the last 6 years. And so that's one of the reasons why copper, I think, is going to keep going up. There's just not the supply coming online. Now, you know this is true when you look at the smelter's treatment and refining charges. So this is when a miner shows up with his concentrate, asks the smelter to refine it. Normally this is the period that you get whipped pretty hard. I could use a more graphic description, but they usually tag you for impurities and grade of concentrate and everything else. Right now, they're charging you exactly 0. The treatment and refining charges are 0, and this is because refiners or smelters need that feed, and there just simply isn't enough concentrate going to them to keep the machine turning. And so this is a supply side problem. This isn't people want more copper because they want to build things. This is a fundamental root cause issue where there just isn't enough copper supply to meet that demand. I'll get to the importance of that for Kazakhstan a little further on. Now, if you look at gold price, if you were smart enough to get into the gold market, you would have made an 18.3% return. And the question is, what's going on there? So this is what's going on. If you look at the China gold imports, they were averaging around 40,000 kilograms, or about 1.2 million ounces a month that their central bank was buying. At the start of this year, in January and going into February and March, that increased 3 times. The Chinese central bank is in there buying up to 1.3 million ounces of gold a month right now. And this is actually a phenomenon worldwide. So if you look at all the central banks, right now they are hoarding gold. And this is the reason why. We can speculate. I'm certainly not qualified to answer that question, but that explains the dramatic increase in the last 2 months of gold. There are just way more buyers than there are producers right now. So if you look at battery metals, so this is lithium. So 2022 production was 680,000 tonnes. 2035 is predicted to go to 4 million tonnes. So the new production that's got to come online is over 3 million tonnes of lithium. That's equivalent to 74 new mines of average size. If you look at cobalt, you can read the numbers yourself. That's equivalent to 63 new mines that have to come online. Nickel, 73 new mines. And then with graphite, 54 new mines. The point is that there's all this predicted consumption that needs to happen, and there's literally no exploration that's out there finding this stuff to make it work. So if you look at just metals in general, they're all on an upward trend. This is uranium, this is nickel, this is zinc, this is silver, and on and on. And quite simply, it all boils down to the root cause of a lack of exploration. So President Tokayev's message in his speech to the nation in August last year was attracting large private investments or investments is crucial for unlocking the miners sector. So when he says large private investments, what he hasn't mentioned is the competition for that money. So we can identify the competition for Kazakhstan and its source of capital pretty easily. This is a map of the world. Here's all the copper deposits of the world. And just simply from that, you can figure out who your competition is for that very precious capital to get the industry up and running. So obviously we've got South America, we've got North America, we've got Indonesia and PNG, and then we've got Central Asia and the countries around there. So if you make a list of that, this is what that list looks like. And this is who Kazakhstan is competing against to actually find capital. To put it another way, this is what Kazakhstan's up against. Fortunately, we've got our own boxes in this part of the world. So what are we competing for? And we're competing for money. And the thing is money is getting less and less or more and more scarce. So these are the major mining specialist funds out of the UK in 2010. $42 billion worth of capital that they could deploy into the mining and exploration world. This was them in 2022, dropped down to 16 billion, and a couple of those funds no longer exist. If you look at Canada, same thing again. They had 16 billion to deploy into the mining world, exploration. Today, it's 2 billion. You've seen a dramatic drop in the amount of available capital for exploration, which kind of explains why there has been no exploration for the last 5 or 6 years. So where has that money gone? That money hasn't disappeared, it's just gone somewhere else. So if you look at the market cap of Microsoft, not to pick on Microsoft, but I've got a market cap of 3.1 trillion. And all the S&P 500 energy companies, oil companies, electricity producers have a combined market cap of 1.6 trillion. This is the profit that they made. So Microsoft made a profit last year of $67 billion, where that energy sector on the S&P 500 made a combined profit of $135 billion. And yet Microsoft still has a much larger market cap. The point is this is a massive bubble. Money has flowed to a select number of big companies and basically at the expense of the resource sector, including energy. So I think that money is going to come back into our sector at some point. And when it does, we need to be the best prepared and the most organised mining industry here in Kazakhstan. So a strong mining industry looks like this. If you think of it like a stool, we've got the geology. Fortunately in Kazakhstan we do. It's very prospective, lots of potential. We've got the jurisdiction. We've got a government that is very pro-mining, making all the right moves with a new mining law and trying to attract investment into the country. And again, to their credit, they were in force at the PDAC, the world's largest mining conference this year, promoting Kazakhstan. I have to say I've been very impressed with the government's approach to trying to get this sector going. And then the last leg of the stool is industry. And this is where the Chamber of Mines comes into this story, is because without any one of these legs holding up the industry, it's a problem. So we get this right, we've got a roaring mining industry where we're off to the races. We get it wrong, this is what our industry actually looks like. So bring in the Kazakhstan Chamber of Mines. Basically, a quick definition is it's a voluntary organisation of industry who represent their industry members for advocacy and basically a sounding board for the government to kind of get an industry perspective on things. And so in the last year, led very capably by Taskyn Koshman, we've put together I think a very strong membership that I think is able to liaise with the government and I guess provide that industry feedback that I think is needed with the tension between policymakers and real life on the ground industry members. So this is something that can't happen tomorrow. This is not a one-year project. And so to give you an idea of the kind of timeframes that industry and government need to be in partnership for, here's what it takes to develop a copper mine. So you're looking at a minimum of 12 years of exploration, or not a minimum, an average time frame to discover a big copper mine. You're then looking at another 1.4 years to decide if you're going to build a mine, and then another 2.4 years to actually build it. So you're looking at 16.4 years from discovery to an actual mine kicking off on average. And this is where we need government and industry working closely and all pushing in the same direction, because the moment that relationship breaks down, that time frame can turn into decades. So I guess, again, this is one of the reasons why the Chamber of Mines, I think, is going to be essential moving forward, because we want to make sure that industry is at the table with the policymakers. So to sum up, as an industry and everyone in this room, we need to make this the most attractive opportunity for that outside capital to come into the country. And really, I think this slide summarises it best. If you're in a horse race with every other major mining producing country in the world, would you rather be this or would you rather be this? This is the members of the Chamber of Mines, and if you want to become a member, please contact Taskyn. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim, for that very illuminating presentation on both the global situation, the competition that's up against Kazakhstan, and finally a good promotion for the Chamber of Mines. Thank you. Any questions from the floor for Tim? No? Staggered. Yes, sure, Nikolai.
A question. Very, very, as Tony said, enlightening presentation. Something tells me that the gap is not going to be closed soon. If it's like worst case scenario and we have that gap between demand and supply, how would it impact industry and like societies and countries in general? What's your idea about that? Thank you.
Well, I think certainly the copper gap is already here. They're predicting a 400,000 tonne supply deficit in 2024. I think you're just going to see the price of metals go up, and you will see that money go into exploration because, you know, there'll be innovation, but I think for certain metals, and copper is one of them, there's no replacement. So I think you're just going to see more focus on the mining industry.
So it's basically, there's got to be a bit of a struggle, but finally the market will regulate itself and provide money where it's needed the most to reach the actual transition goals.
I think so, but I think you're going to have jurisdictions still competing for that money. And that's why, you know, for a country like Kazakhstan, if it can present the best opportunity with the kind of terms that are already on the table, I think it's positioned well to take advantage of that money opportunity coming in.
Hi. Donny, can I ask a question? I don't need the microphone, he's sitting right here, but I'll use the microphone anyway. Tim, I've been to various conferences recently and attended Brussels, and politically everybody is pushing to net zero, and we all totally understand the timeframes. But what you're describing there in incredibly illuminating slides, but it's a common theme. What is going to cause that sense of urgency that's required to start the process now? In our little way at Xcalibur, we're doing what we can to try and bring investment into the country, but there needs to be a sense of urgency. And is this going to have to come from government because industry doesn't seem to want to move?
Yeah, I think what's going to cause the urgency is rising prices of metals. The mining industry is remarkably bad, or actually remarkably good at shooting itself in the foot. Every time you get the price of metals rising, what everyone does is they just increase production and drive that price back down again. And I think what's going to be different this time, particularly for a commodity like copper, is that's not going to fill the gap. And it's because it's a supply side problem that I think just increasing productions on the existing mines is not going to meet that need. And so the price of the metal itself, I think, is in the medium term is very encouraging.
Okay, thank you very much. I would now like to welcome our last presenter, last but not least, Gulnara Bijanova of Atamiken. Gulnara.
Good morning, distinguished participants of the forum, distinguished guests. Today we discuss this session where Atomican Chamber participates, and I'm very pleased to attend this session, meeting with all of you. I'm very happy to welcome you on behalf of Atomican Chamber. I see many familiar faces. We met recently at another conference of the Mining Chamber. So I hope that our cooperation will last, not only from conference to conference, but also we will continue to collaborate live. I apologize for being late, but I would like to emphasize the following. We've heard very sound arguments in your presentations concerning the global challenges, relating to the global markets and capabilities of the industry, mining industry in Kazakhstan, ESG requirements, which are also in the center of our focus as part of our zero carbon commitments and reduction of our carbonization burden. I'd like to focus on our domestic issues and domestic legislation that focuses and promotes the internal growth and domestic value of the country. And let me highlight some ideas which would be relevant to potential investors and their follow-up strategies. This is what we encounter here in the country, and also in the context of our operation as well as the mining chamber, while lobbying the interests and promoting the interests of its members. But also, we serve as a platform, as a universal liaison between the government and parliaments, and as a body, as an agency that can offer an in-depth expertise and knowledge in the industry. I'd like to share an example of successful cooperation with with domestic manufacturers of commodities. Kazakhstan company has an office on development of Kazakhstani, of the local content, with the turnover based on the results of the previous year totaling 360 billion tenge, and the cost of long-term contracts with small and medium businesses totaled 6 billion tenge. Kazakhmys Corporation is another outstanding example that doubled the Kazakhstani content within the last decade. And the procurements total 69% in overall tenders of the company. The amount of 401 billion tenge is the total amount of contracts with the local companies. The company is engaged into joint projects with the Kazakhstani companies such as VTA KZ, PS Global on construction of manufacturing plants, steel manufacturing plants and processing plants in Shymkent, which will increase its presence in the share in the content, in terms of the content of Kazakhstani companies in tenders. Eurasian Group made procurement from local companies on the total amount 855 billion tenge, and signed contracts with such companies as format match companies on production of spare parts for excavators and diesel generators, which were not available in Kazakhstan in previous years. Carmet is developing, it's a company from Karaganda region, which also supports local domestic producers. Last year, they signed memorandum between the local executive authority, Akimat, and the company to develop domestic value through engagement of domestic manufacturers. The list of this memorandum includes 56 companies which will supply goods and services to the mines in the region. What we as a chamber, how we as a chamber contribute to this process. First of all, we are a dialogue platform. Last year, we conducted 2.0 forum, international forum. We have some speakers who attended the forum last year, and also moderators who emphasized the useful outcomes of such dialogues and also the practical achievements by signing the contracts totaling 50 billion tenge. More than 1,000 participants attended B2B sessions, asking direct questions from potential manufacturers and producers in the industry.
January this year, we held a meeting of entrepreneurs with Prime Minister being present, where we discussed serialization of metallurgical processing. We see that cooperation needs to be promoted, and the chamber is currently working on that jointly with the Ministry of Industry and Construction. We are working on refining good certification and improving the local content calculation mechanisms. This is for companies to be able to better perform localization. We developed an alternative investment project map. This is a digital platform for monitoring investment projects in the country and to address investors' issues rapidly at any levels. It will be integrated into the systems, electronic systems of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which is the body that has the primary role in attracting foreign investment. The chamber works with local companies, with institutions on refining the national legislation with regards to subsoil users procurement, developed a special procurement system which makes it easier to do procurement. Now people no longer have to do searching manually, and by searching I mean searching for locally produced goods and services. We are also currently working on integrating this platform with NADLOC, the government platform. The chamber are working on promoting increases in local content in various areas, and we see that clusterization is what is required. And to increase local content, I think it would be great to establish small and medium-sized enterprise belts around the largest company. And our flagship companies have already created things like that. So Kaz Minerals, Rare Resources Groups, they've already established also Aluminium of Kazakhstan electrolysis plant. They're working on establishing an aluminium cluster in Pavlodar, as well as they start to produce aluminium products. Altyn Almaz, the gold company, is working with food producers and agricultural companies, is establishing an association with small and medium-sized enterprises. At the same time, I wonder why is it that I see no representatives of government agencies here. Well, anyways, we are able to get our messages heard, and we raise issues whenever necessary. And we want to address the government and say that government initiatives on increasing local content, those need to take into account that our old deposits are starting to deplete, and administrative pressure alone is not enough. And that's why we are calling on the government to establish so-called business belts around the flagship companies by providing tax incentives, providing access to financing from development institutions, because this is how you ensure socio-economic well-being and prosperity in the long term. We know that there are currently negotiations being held at the ministerial level. Also, we have the support of Parliament, and overall, these initiatives are gaining traction, and our expectation is that soon we will see incentives enshrined in the law, which will enable companies to increase local content, enable to continue, then provide support to local business. Of course, localization is not possible without using cutting-edge technology and ensuring experience dissemination. And KazMinerals is a prime example of that. Jointly with FMS Schmidt, they organized a maintenance center in Karaganda. Air Minerals launched a maintenance center and also a furnace. They've provided a lot of training to local specialists. Barusan, the Caterpillar dealer, does maintenance in Karaganda, and also manufactures many spare parts for mining equipment. Also, Kazakhmys, ARG and Casting are other companies to be mentioned here. And we think that there needs to be priorities set for companies to receive investment. This is one way to increase the attractiveness of the country for the investors. So overall, to conclude, the country has the capacity to increase its production and develop its industries. However, I've said it before, and I'll say it again, I'd like to call on the chamber to put more effort. And one challenge we face is that there is no strategy for the development of the mining industry. So since our last meeting, Atamiken has worked with the Strategic Reform and Planning Agency. However, as one of the previous speakers said, as team said, currently we have plans that are developed for 5 years, and work is being finished on one of them currently. However, to have that explosive growth in the industry, we need to join our efforts. Since, well, our efforts alone were enough to get this plan to include geological exploration. Now it is seen as a national priority. We've made progress with tax incentives for deposits that are starting to deplete. We also received support for some mineral deposits. At the same time, take into account the vision that you have, the knowledge that you have of the global market and the prospects that you see. Ruslan, we would ask you to be more proactive, to help us. And currently, we are establishing a project office for the mining industry. And this office is an institution that will be developing this strategy, the strategy that will enable investors, domestic or international ones, to contribute to the development of long-term policy, to develop long-term business plans, including ones for localization of projects in Kazakhstan, to focus on human capital growth across many avenues and be able to assess the multiplicative effect from using that for the whole economy. Because the absence of such document, I think, is a challenge, because this is what makes the industry unable to attract enough investment. The government and business need to work together, to go hand in hand in developing this document that has strategic importance. And it is only after that has been done that we'll be able to get to the new level, because people will see the elevated status of the industry, as we are still yet to see the effect of the principles that was enshrined in 2022, that it is the people that is the owner of the country's natural wealth.
Very interesting presentation, and especially your point made very clearly that incentivization is the most powerful tool for the government to develop this country in the way it needs to go. Not regulation. We've all heard the stories of intentions to maybe require producers to sell their products in the country at a discounted price. That's, in my mind, never going to work, and I've never seen a model around the world where that's worked satisfactorily. So incentivization is what we need to see, and that's what we need to be asking for. Thank you very much, Gulnara. I think we have a few moments before coffee break where we can just have a look at the results of the survey. So do we represent an industrial enterprise? Yeah, 50%, yes, 50%, no, absolutely split. Is it down the middle of the room, I wonder? In the next 5 years, Kazakhstan plans to maintain growth rates at 6 to 7%. How do you assess this? Okay, majority are optimistic. There's a significant pessimism. We will see. Most important areas for development of mining and metallurgical complexes. Transition to green technology, 50%. Development of processing, 50%. I wonder if that's the same 50% that are industrial enterprises or not. Okay. Results expected from the implementation of the roadmap for the development of the mining and metallurgical complex in Kazakhstan. So we have gold is yes, that's a very positive response. Growth of the industry's share in GDP and the multiplier effect in the country's economy, slight negative feeling. Increased exports of value-added products, very positive. Reduced dependence on imports, positive. So yeah, pretty much positive, except we come to the last one, all of the above. Are we 50% again? Yes, I think near enough. Okay, next one. Kazakhstan is discussing restrictions on the export of mining products. How critical is this restriction for attracting foreign investment in the industry? We've just been mentioning that. Very critical, I think, is the clear message there. Do you agree that mining companies provide at least 50% of jobs to Kazakh citizens in compliance with the subsoil and subsoil use code? Yes is not very well supported in general, but there are violations is a much more, seems a much more understood factor. And also, no, violations are becoming more frequent. 33%, that's interesting. Will the transition to long-term partnerships through offtake contracts and strategic agreements reduce the risks of disruptions in the supply chain of goods for the needs of Kazakhstan industry? Yes is in the majority. Minority no, and 33% don't know. Do you agree that localization of products imported by subsoil users will provide a 40% increase in local, medium and small enterprises operating in the manufacturing industry? 1/3 each. Okay, that's a bit inconclusive, I would say. Do you think Kazakhstan universities and other learning institutions produce sufficient numbers and quality of specialist graduates to meet future demand in these following disciplines? Well, it seems a very positive attitude towards that yes, there are adequate numbers of new graduates in all the skills we need coming up. Apart from construction and geotechnical engineers, seems we don't really need them. I don't know. I wouldn't agree with that. But yes, well, it seems that we're beginning to produce sufficient specialists for our industry. That's very good. Thank you very much for your attention, and I think we'll enjoy a bit of a coffee break before the next presentations. Thank you.
Welcome to the session on the development of Kazakhstani content in subsoil use. The session is organized in partnership with the Kazakhstan Chamber of Mines, the new and prominent voice of the junior mining and international investment community in Kazakhstan. In this session, we'll explore the experiences and strategies of companies operating in the mining sector, which is playing a crucial role in the economic development and security of Kazakhstan. Over the next 5 years, Kazakhstan aims to maintain growth rates at 6 to 7%. To achieve this, the government is introducing new initiatives which are likely to have a great impact on existing and future mining projects and operations in the country. Please scan the QR code and take a few minutes to complete the survey during the session. Your feedback is invaluable. Together, we can drive progress and success for the industry. Your participation is completely voluntary, and your responses will be kept confidential.